right, from our left, we've got cornerback Jermaine Huff, defensive end Bandit Chris Landrum, Coach Gross, quarterback Eli Jenkins, and then wide receiver Dalton Scrooge. Dalton is receiving the Doris and Eddie Robinson Scholar Athlete of the Year for FCS on Friday night at the banquet before the game, too. So, Coach, if you'll open us up.
Okay. Glad to be sitting here today. Played football on January 9th. It's pretty good. So it's good to be practicing today and in our final game week preparation, and that be for a national championship. So had plenty of time to prepare. 3 weeks is a long time in between games. We've learned that. So we got a little downtime over the Christmas break and got back in last week and really didn't lose a beat. You worry about a little bit being off this long and where you're going to be at, but I feel pretty good about where we are and look really fresh heading into this week. So like I said, just like to first of all thank our fans. We led the country in attendance through the FCS playoffs, and what a great venue to be on national televisions, and have that type of a crowd with our students coming back, and just all three of those playoff games here was a tremendous atmosphere, and take my hat off to them. We appreciate that, we very much do, and I know everybody and their brothers trying to go to Frisco as well, and we want as many to come as possible, even if you don't have a ticket. So like I said, we're looking forward to going ourselves this Wednesday, and the challenge at hand.
Questions, anybody?
Coach, do you prepare for two quarterbacks? You haven't seen one in a long time as far as the North Dakota State QB. You plan to see them both?
Well, if you had a guy who's going to be in the top 5 in the draft quarterback-wise, and it's his last college game and last time he gets to play with his guys, I think he's playing. We're preparing like he's playing, and they're not a lot different. We broke down all last year's stuff, looked at games and this year's stuff. There's not a lot of difference in the offense with either one of them in, other than he's got a lot better arm. Both of them can run the ball equally as well, and a talented guy. So I would think that he's going to play in the game. But like I said, don't really change your game plan, because there's not a lot of difference in how they after the other guys won 8 games. He can play. So I mean, both of them are equally good. But we're playing like he's playing for sure. Planning on like he's playing.
For Coach and maybe a couple of the players, how do you prepare for such a big stage like this?
Basically, Coach has made sure we kept everything the same as we did last season. Did during the season. Practice time has changed a little bit because we're out of school, but as far as our practice schedule and the timing and everything, we're not doing anything more, anything less than we did during the season, and we're going to go in there and treat it like a regular game.
Gentlemen, you've been the #1 team in the country most of the season. You're going up against, and you're making your first trip to the national championship at this level. Going up against a team that's making its 5th straight trip there. Do you now become second fiddle?
Game's the game. This year's team is this year's team for both of us. I think both of us have a rich tradition in football. We had Coach Burgess come in and talk to the team before the game, before practice today, and he talked about back in the D2 days, you had to go through North Dakota State, to win a national championship then. So they've got a historic program, and they've been very successful the last 4 years, and that's where the bar is set. Definitely. When I first came here, that's the game I watched. I watched them and Sam Houston, and they won their 2nd in a row at that time. And you want to look at who's won it, and that's where you set your recruiting to. That's where you look at building your program to. So definitely they've had a great run, and very great program of the way they do things. But I think this game is a life of itself, just like this season has a life of itself. So we're handling business, and it's all about how we play. Our guys are bought into that. Eli stopped me the other day. I was meeting in the team meeting. He said, "Oh, Coach, it's about how we play." So our guys believe in that, and we just want to go out and play our very best. We are not in control of how they play, or what they've done in the past, or what they're about. The only thing we're in control of is how we treat the game and how we play the game. So our guys are looking forward to doing that, and we're going to go have fun and play the game, and hopefully play our very, very best.
Is it significant that JSU is number one? You're taking on the 4-time defending champs, but JSU goes in number one. Is that significant?
I don't think it has anything to do with it. We're the visiting team. Being chosen to be the home team, so I don't think it has anything to do to it. And we talk about this. These guys can tell you, before you go into the playoffs, the seeding, the ranking, you can throw that out the window. It don't matter. It didn't help us to be the 3rd seed and be ranked in one poll 2nd last year. We got beat in the 2nd round. So it really has no factor on the game. What the teams rank, what the records are. Saturday, that game will have a life of its own, and it'll be, how each team plays and who plays the best. It'll be hey, we take care of the football, don't turn it over, and, how we play in the kicking game, and, how we play offense and defense, how we block and tackle. And that's who's going to win the game, who does those things, the best on Saturday. So, like I said, I don't think those things factor at all into the game.
For Eli, how much are you enjoying this experience, and especially being so close to home for you?
Oh yeah, it's a great experience. I'm glad I get to spend time with this team. It's a great team. Just the bond we have together is great. I never been on a team that really had this much chemistry, and just to make this run to the national championship has been so much fun.
Coach, can you talk a little bit about Dalton's awards off the field? Because there's more than one.
I guess he's a pretty good guy. I don't know. Will y'all like him?
Yeah,
He's okay. No, I'll say this, I think these guys would back me up. We have a lot of great men on this team. I brag all the time about what they do off the field, and we had guys, Thanksgiving break and the next week where we do this point system in the off season where they build points doing community service and different things. Well, I'd say we've logged probably more hours than any team in the country. I'd match our community service hours up with anybody, and but we had guys going and doing reading programs at elementary schools, visiting elementary schools when they didn't have to. We didn't even ask them to do it, and they're going and doing it. I think Dalton went to 2 or 3 schools that day. Eli went to some. All these guys just were going and spending time with elementary kids that they didn't have to do. Nobody asked them to do. They just went and did it. But if our team chose one guy that they would say, man, that's a great man, great person, I think they'd choose Dalton. And like I said, we got a bunch of good ones, but he's a great representation, of this university, our team, his family, and I think he spent time, doing, mission trips in Tanzania and doing things like that. But he's just, I think our guys like him, and spend time with him. He can hang out with anybody. So. We got a bunch of guys that, hey, I'd trust them taking my kids to California. Dalton's one of those guys. So it's we're very, very proud of him. But he is very, very deserving of that award.
And
for
he
sure.
made a pretty big catch up at EIU.
He did. He made the one on what game was it? Was it Sam? He got on the top 10. That's Charles Southern.
Yeah.
Got on top 10 deal there. So he's had a great year for us. So, and he's what we're all about. He's a blue collar guy. He works hard, every day, and just does such a great job in the classroom and just every phase of what he's doing. And all these guys sitting up here, they do that. But they have enough respect for him. I think they would say that he's very deserving of that.
Coach Cross, how much belief do you put in the statistic of time of possession? The North Dakota State coach said it's very important to him.
Well, you can tell by the way they play. There's no doubt it's very important to them. I'm not. I don't know. You got some guys that like to throw it all over the place. They say that's a stat that ought to be taken off. I'm a defensive guy, so I definitely say not. I'd rather these defensive. They can't win if they can't score, and if they don't have the ball, they can't score unless we give it to them. I guess they can score if we turn it over. But that's time possession is big. It's something that we don't readily talk about. But we like to drive the football and have sustained drives. Now, in playoffs and different times, we've had a lot of explosive plays for touchdowns, but we don't mind taking 4 or 5 yards and going on a 12 to 15 play drive either. So it's just about execution, but it's not something we look at the end of the game and go, okay, where was the time of possession? Because a lot of times when you look at it, it's not a factor, in the outcome of the game. Sometimes you see a blowout and the time of possession was almost double with the team that lost the game. So it's not an indication of who necessarily wins the game, but it is something that we talk offensively about. We want to possess the ball, we want to move the chains, and third downs are big. It always will be. I mean, it's getting off the field on defense on third downs, and it's about keeping the drives going on offense, converting on third down. So that's what we spend the bulk of our time doing, and I think that there's your time of possession. If we're in the 70s getting off the field defensively, they ain't gonna have a high time of possession. And offensively, if we convert third downs, we're going to extend drives and we're going to possess the ball. So I think it boils down to that. That's what we spend more time talking about than the actual time of possession.
How about Junior? You and Chris talked about their offense, and Eli talked about their defense.
Well, we know they got a great offense with 2 great quarterbacks. We don't know which one playing, but their game is to hold the ball. We want to get them out of that game and try to put it in the air. You know what I'm saying? So it's a great opportunity. It's just another game for us, and the stage keeps getting bigger and bigger each week. We just gotta come together as a team and play our game like we always do each week and prepare like we know how to prepare.
Like Junior said, it's about changing what they do, changing their game plan, and we do that by starting off up front. Which every game it starts off up front. We have to be physical, and that allows us to get into what we want to get into, and be able to fly around.
On defense, they're a really good defense. They play hard. They're in the right position at the right times. Watching film, one of the best defense we've seen. They're overall great defense. They give maximum effort, so it's gonna be a good one.
Yeah, it's the biggest thing we see is their effort, and so that's one thing that we've stressed this week is giving the same effort as them and going above and beyond what we normally do. We have a great offense and we play some great defenses, but we feel like if we play our great game that there's nobody in the country that can stop our offense. We're always gonna run the ball and we're gonna make plays through the air. So I feel like, especially with Eli and all the things that he's able to do with his arms and legs, that no matter who we play, we have a great chance to match up well. And we've been behind the 8 ball before. You read some things and you look at predictions and this, that, and the other. That's what's so special about this team is we could care less about the predictions on paper. We just care about the last score on the scoreboard, and that's what's special about this team. So I'm excited to see how we match up and to go up against North Dakota State and their defense.
I think what Dalton said is, I think you identify their program when you watch them on tape is how hard they play, and they block and tackle well. They're a fundamental football team, and I would hope that they'd say the same thing about us. I think we play extremely hard. We block and tackle well, and that's the way you're supposed to play the game. That's the reason I think it's gonna be a great game on Saturday. Is they got a solid football team.
John, do you have any sense of the level of excitement that's been ratcheted at this point? Obviously, students have not yet returned, but through emails, text messages, anything that gives you a sense that this is maybe a little different than the games we've played to this point?
Yeah, we got a great fan base. Twitter, Instagram. All I see is Frisco this, Frisco that. Our students and fans are, they can't wait. That's all they've been talking about over the Christmas break. I'm ready to give them a show. I know these guys are ready also. So it's just it's a lot of excitement around this game, and I feel like we have big crowds all the time. You know, we got a great student section. You know, they're gonna be in Frisco. We got great fans. So we've been there before.